Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Madrid, welcome to our city. As a General Director of EuroLatam Next, it's a great honor for me to be here. This is the work of a lot of people. I see here Emiliano Porras, Pepe Domínguez, Francesca, Teodora Thomas, Hugo Cardona, of course led by Benita Ferro-Waldner and Javier Cremades. So we're very happy that you are here. I especially see Elisa Junqueira, so our Brazilian member. I'm very happy that she's here because it's the third time. She's been very supportive since the beginning, and it's an example of that this network is working. And for these 2 years since we launched the network, there has been a lot of opportunities for us, for our law firms, for our clients. We also have learned a lot. And we hope that in the future we still continue joining together in Madrid or in other cities, that we are able to enlarge our members, the cities that we have representation, and that we continue collaboration in a global market who requires at the end global lawyers, and that's mainly the purpose, and particularly EuroLatam Lex to join Central and Eastern Europe with America. So that's our main purpose, and I hope that we reach this goal. Before starting about collaborative economy, that I think is an extraordinary matter, I just wanted to say that it's a difficult time now for Spain. I just want to say a few words about what's going on now in Spain, especially since we have here a lot of foreigners. And as lawyer, it affects us a lot. And we were going to see the Senate, the Spanish Senate, this afternoon, but a very important votation is taking place. And basically, we think that there's a important and significant part of people, because there are a lot of people, a lot of Spaniards who live in Catalonia that are not respecting the rule of law, are not respecting the sentences of our constitutional court, and we think that, or at least that's my opinion, as lawyers we cannot accept that situation, and we have to endorse the rule of law, because without the rule of law there will be no democracy, no? So I think that the current situation in Spain, it was worthy to just briefly these words. Now, what I'm going to focus on this first working session is about something that I think is very important, is collaborative economy. It's been said at the European level they have worked a lot. There's several communications and several papers, and also the Parliament has issued different comments about it. And it is considered one of the major topics or the major areas that could grow in the near future. So as lawyers, we have to learn a lot and know what's going on and what's collaborative economy. We all have heard about Uber. Here in Spain, for different reasons, there's another company, it's Cabify. I hope that Ana Trayero afterwards explains us a little bit about what's Cabify. It's a very good example of what's collaborative economy and how automobile sector is growing and is offering a lot of new job opportunities, and how people can become entrepreneurs with goods that sometimes were not really using, or that they were not using all the time. No? Basically, sometimes a lot of people own a car, but most of the time the car is parked. It's parked in our houses, it's parked in our offices, and that's something that we are not using. And while we are not using our cars, other people might be interested in using them. And thanks to the technology platform, we are able to connect that demand and that offer of the service, and that's basically what's collaborative economy. That's the way through technology to put in contact peer-to-peer, and that we're saying to letting apartments. Airbnb is a great example. Now Airbnb offers more rooms than any hotel international chain, and Hilton, you name it. Now there's hundred thousands of possibilities to travel around the world with Airbnb, and well, then a new marketplace has been created, and basically it's the temporary use of products or temporary use of services, and there's not a transfer of ownership. So that's also a significant item of collaborative economy, and it can be on a non-profit basis and on a profit basis. But in any case, I think a collaborative economy is here to stay. It is true that, it's just starting. We will see a lot of new developments. For instance, on the financial area, that's going to be huge. In the crowdfunding area, for instance, there's a lot of things going on, and so it's obviously when something new comes, conflicts, and even, at least in Spain, has been violent conflicts from the people, for instance, in the taxi sector, who had paid for their license, who are subject to very strong regulation, and afterwards they see how, thanks to the new platforms and this peer-to-peer philosophy, is putting in danger their jobs. So that's something that we have to also bear in mind. But for sure, this sector, traditional taxi sector, in my view, they will have to adapt to the collaborative economy and try to compete with them, because, as I said, it is here to stay, and that's, for me, it's clear. So who are the main players of the collaborative economy? Well, there are three mainly. Okay, they are the service providers, those, for instance, that offer their car or offer their house for a certain period of time, as I said, without the transfer of ownership. Those who demand those services. So far, maybe there's nothing new. What is really new is that collaborative platforms, and I'm talking about Uber, I'm talking about BlaBlaCar, I'm talking about Share Your Meal. There are a wide variety of platforms that are the ones who are able to put in contact those demand and offer, and that has to be always positive. I'm going to quote a sentence, a phrase from European Commission Vice President Jyrki Katainen that I think is very enlightening, and it says, a competitive European economy requires innovation, be it in the area of products or services. Europe's next unicorn could stem from the collaborative economy. Regulators have to encourage a regulatory environment that allows new business models to develop, while at the same time protecting consumers and ensuring fair taxation and employment conditions. I think that this phrase it has a lot of ideas. The main one is that European Union is going to support, endorse, and promote collaborative economy, but that this could be a great opportunity for European economy, but at the same time that we have to take some precautions, like everything always when we do something new. And it arises a lot of legal questions. No? First one is, how do you access to that market? Generally, for instance, and I'm always talking about the taxi because it's the most well-known, it has been very developed, but a taxi driver in Spain needs a license. Does a Uber driver need a license? That's the first question we have to make. And at the same time, if you have a hotel and you are offering rooms for a certain period of time, you need to have a license for your local council. Does the guys who offer Airbnb their apartments, are they obliged also to obtain a license? So that's the first question, and it's not an easy question. As a matter of fact, as regards Uber, and that's why Cabify is so important here in Spain, is that they went to the court. The taxi sector went to the court. They filed unfair competition practice, focusing on things like this, in the sense that, look, Uber drivers do not have a license. We are obliged to have a license. So that's unfair. No? That's unfair and competition practice. And as a matter of fact, they win. And the taxi sector, and now there's a different regulator, and now the drivers who are working on the collaborative economy, they have certain requirements, while before that claim, they didn't have any sort of requirements. Another issue, important issue, is the liability problem. What about if the platform, the collaborative platform is hosting misleading information? What about if the apartment you engage with a owner of an apartment using Airbnb, you go there and the apartment is totally different from the pictures? So that's something that also that we have to tackle. And as I mean, there's still the civil code and the consumers rules. They are also applied, as well as they are used in other areas of economy. So if I was promised a certain conditions in my apartment and I get there and they are not the ones I was expecting, then I have obviously able to claim against the owner of the apartment. But what about the Airbnb? Because he's getting money from thanks to our activity. Is he subject to any sort of liability? And the European Union has issued a communication, and I think it's very interesting. And at the end, they have come to their origins, and they have said just focus on the E-Commerce Directive. The E-Commerce Directive has been for a long period of time, from 2001, and it was very important for all the internet development. Without the E-Commerce Directive, or if the E-Commerce Directive have had different principles, just to say, if in the event I had to ask for a permission in order to open a website, obviously internet would be different. So those principles are similar, and basically they are based on the exemption of liability for collaborative platforms. Obviously, that exception, although it's a general rule, is subject to certain limitations. And obviously, if you are aware that for instance, Airbnb is aware that the information that is hosting on their website is wrong, they have to remove it immediately. But I think that's an important point. The E-Commerce Directive is implemented in all matters regarding collaborative platforms economy. Other things is, what about labor law? Other guys who work for Uber or for Cabify or whatever, are they subject to labor law? Are they working for the collaborative platform, or are they entrepreneurs that they are self-employment agents? So that's also has been also discussed by our scholars, and there's some sentence about it. And basically, there's not a single question, but we have to what the European Union Commission tells us is that you have to bear in mind three main aspects. The first one is the nature of the work. The second one is who's paying to that driver. Obviously, if the collaborative platform is paying to the driver, it makes quite a difference that if the user of the the person who demands that service is paying to the driver. And the third item, or the third idea that we have to bear in mind, is whether the driver is following is under the direction of the collaborative platform. So if the driver is paid by the collaborative platform, and the driver is subject to the direction of the collaborative platform, we will probably have to bear in mind the labor law. And if you are subject to labor law, everything changes. The collaborative platform has to bear in mind the health and safety requirements. They have to give they have to pay social security. They should pay in case of an accident, or the driver has an accident and cannot work for a certain period of days. So, that's also a very important issue. We also have to talk about taxing. I'm sorry to focus only on the driver issue, but in Spain is the most important and has been more discussed by the scholars. And it's the same. At the beginning, when the first Uber drivers starting, what the taxi driver said when they have the license, they were saying, "Look, I'm paying my income taxes. These guys are not paying income taxes. They are saying that they are only peer-to-peer, they are friend-to-friend who take a guy to another place, but they are working. They are 8 hours per day working, so they should be subject to income taxes. And that service should also be subject to VAT, to value added tax. So that's something that we'll have to bear in mind, the tax issue. And finally, And well, something that has been used, and in Catalonia has been used, and afterwards I will speak just briefly, because I know there's a lot of people who with a lot of knowledge about this issue, and they will enlighten us a lot, is that sometimes in order to assess whether it's a really peer-to-peer service or whether it's a professional service, for instance in Catalonia they set a threshold in the apartment sector. Therefore, if you were renting your apartment for a certain period of time and for many times during a year, you have to register on a certain register, and you have to report to the council administration. If you are under those thresholds, you don't have to register. So that's something also that can help us to understand when we have to. When it's only a peer-to-peer, and when there we have a professional to-peer relationship. And just I'm finishing just a brief mention to the different sentences in Spain. As I said, the taxi sector filed a claim based on unfair competition practices because Uber drivers were infringing labor law, they were infringing tax law, they were infringing the license law as regards drivers, and well, they win, and so Uber has changed totally their business model here in Spain. And also BlaBlaCar is also a collaborative platform, and it's more focused, it's also on the automobile sector, but it's more focused on the long distance trips. For instance, if you go from Madrid to Barcelona, if you're going from León to Cuenca, there's all the time people going, and that's a very good example of what can collaborative economy do. You're going from Madrid to Barcelona, only you have 4 empty spaces, you're paying your gas, you're paying the tariff for using the highway, and that's what collaborative economy is saying. You have empty spaces, and someone wants to go at the same time at the same place with you. I'm a user of BlaBlaCar, and I can tell you the experience is quite good, and you save money, and I think it's good. And BlaBlaCar, the bus sector, filed a claim against them, and so far they have lost it. So BlaBlaCar has won. And just finishing, it's also very important in Spain. The report was issued by the Spanish Antitrust Authority in 2016, and it was clearly promoting collaborative economy and promoting that all regulations that hamper or jeopardize the collaborative economy sector should be removed. And well, that's basically my intervention. And I don't know if José Luis Timerman or Ana Trayer are here and they want to intervene. They're here. Thank you.